We're in the middle of a long speech by that glorious Godhead. He has been telling Savitri, just as the Supreme Divine Mother told Ashwapati, that everything will be fulfilled in its time. Don't be impatient. Give it time. But here at the top of this page, 694, he tells her, but if you don't want, if you are not willing to wait for time and God, then you have to do your work, and you will have to force your will on fate, on this world of determinisms. But now he's telling her, you can't do that here. You can't do that in the manifestation. You can't do that in these symbol worlds. The symbol world of everlasting night, the symbol world of the double twilight. Now she's in another symbol world, the world of everlasting day. But he says here it's not possible for the Eternal's firm command to be heard. Only that can join the head where destiny is decided to the base of matter where it is worked out. He's spoken about the world of life, the worlds of mind, the world of subtle matter. And now he says these are only the mediating links, the connecting links. Not theirs is the originating sight, nor the fulfilling act, or last support that bears perpetually the cosmic pile. Two are the powers that hold the ends of time. Spirit foresees, matter unfolds its thought, the dumb executor of God's decrees, omitting no iota and no dot, agent unquestioning, inconscient, stark, evolving inevitably a charged content, intention of his force in time and space. Inanimate beings and inanimate things. Immutably it fulfills its ordered task. It cancels not a tittle of things done. Unswerving from the oracular command, it alters not the steps of the unseen. If thou must indeed deliver man and earth, on the spiritual heights look down on life. Discover the truth of God and man and world. Then do thy task, knowing and seeing all. Ascend, O soul, into thy timeless self. Choose destiny's curve and stamp thy will on time. He ended and upon the falling sound a power went forth that shook the founded spheres and loosed the stakes that hold the tents of form. Absolved from vision's grip and the folds of thought, wrapped from her sense like disappearing scenes in the stupendous theatre of space, the heaven worlds vanished in spiritual light. A movement was abroad, a cry, a word, beginningless in its vast discovery, momentless in its unthinkable return. Quiet in calm seas, she heard the eternal thought rhythming itself abroad unutterably in spaceless orbits and on timeless roads. In an ineffable world she lived fulfilled. An energy of the triune infinite. In a measureless reality she dwelt. A rapture and a being and a force, a linked and myriad motioned plenitude, a virgin unity, a luminous spouse, housing a multitudinous embrace to marry all in God's immense delight, bearing the eternity of every spirit, bearing the burden of universal love, a wonderful mother of unnumbered souls. All things she knew, all things imagined or willed. Her ear was opened to ideal sound. Shape, the convention, bound no more her sight. 1,000 doors of oneness was her heart. A crypt and sanctuary of brooding light appeared, the last recess of things beyond. Then, in its rounds, the enormous fiat paused. Silence gave back to the unknowable all it had given. Still was her listening thought. The form of things had ceased within her soul. Which way are we reading today? This side? Yes, you start, Rosa. Mm-hmm.
This only are the mediating links not there in the originating sight, not the fulfilling act of last support that builds perpetually the cosmic fire.
Yes, he's continuing what he was saying, what we read last week. No? That not in these simple worlds, not in the worlds of greater life, not in the realms or even the higher realms of mind, and not in the kingdom of subtle matter, can the Eternal's firm command be heard. And he says this is because those realms, the realms of greater life, of higher mind, of subtle matter, they are only links in between, mediating links. A mediator is somebody who goes in between, you know, and reconciles or connects people or things. So those worlds are only mediating links, connecting links. They don't have the originating sight, the power of original vision which has given rise to this creation. And they don't have the power to give the fulfilling act, to bring about the final act of fulfillment. And those worlds don't represent the last support that's perpetually bearing up and holding all this great pile, this mountain of mediating links of subtle worlds, physical and subtle worlds. They are only mediating links. But now he's going to tell what are the two powers that can really do something about it. Perpetually means forever, perpetual, without ending.
Shraddhavan?
Yes.
I don't understand exactly what he means. These unnumbers, so radiating means.
Yes, these are, that's what I tried to explain at the beginning. He's referring to the worlds that he spoke about in the previous two sentences. The symbol worlds, and then the world of greater life, the world of summit mind, the world of subtle matter. He says these are only mediating links. They're in-between stages. Now he's going to tell between which, between what, in the next sentence. Martin.
Two are the powers that hold the ends of time. Spirit proceeds, matter unfolds its thought. The dumb executor of God's decrees, omitting no iota and no dot, ancient, unquestioning, inconscient, star, evolving inevitably a charged content, intention of his force in time and space, in animate beings and inanimate things. Immutably it fulfills its ordered task. It cancels not a tittle of things done. Unswerving from the oracular command, it alters not the steps of the unseen.
So there are two powers that sustain and hold the ends of time. One of them is spirit, which has foreseen everything that must happen in time. And the other is matter. These are the two extremes, the two powers. And then he describes what matter does. He says the spirit foresees everything that must happen and be done. Matter doesn't foresee. It gradually unfolds the spirit's thought. No? Matter is just carrying out the decrees, the commands of God. It is a dumb executor. An executor is somebody who makes sure that somebody else's will, not its own will, is carried out. So matter doesn't say anything, just quietly it makes sure that the intentions of the spirit are carried out. And it does it very, very minutely. It doesn't leave anything out. Iota was the smallest letter in the Greek alphabet. So we use it to mean something very, very small. No dot, no tiny little dot or point is left out. Because matter is an unquestioning agent. It just follows the command that it's been given. It doesn't wonder, why does it have to be like this? And why do I have to do it like this? And couldn't it be different? Matter is an unquestioning agent because it is inconscient. And it's just purely what it is. It's stark, it's nothing else. But what it is doing is inevitably evolving what is within it, the charged content which it is holding. It's as if matter has been filled with the intention of the divine and it has to gradually reveal it.
Order also.
We can say charged in that way, yes. When you're charged with a responsibility, it means you're given a certain burden to bear, a certain responsibility. So that charged content which matter is carrying is the intention of God. And his force, his conscious force that is acting in time and space. That intention and that force of implementation is acting in animate beings, living beings, and in inanimate things, rocks and stones and wind and so on. Immutably, without changing, matter goes on fulfilling its ordered task, one thing after another. And it doesn't cancel, it doesn't change anything, not even a tittle. A tittle, again, is a very tiny little amount. Whatever's been done has been done, and it can't be undone. Matter doesn't swerve. When you're on your bike and a dog runs in front of you, you have to swerve. You have to turn your path. But matter doesn't turn its path. It sticks to that command which it has been given, that oracular command from above. It doesn't alter the steps of the unseen in any way. So these are the two powers. If you want to change something, Savitri, you are going to have to deal with these two powers, with the power of the foreseeing spirit and the power of the unswerving, immutable matter. And you can't do that here in the manifestation, in these in-between worlds. You will have to go somewhere else.
Oracular command.
Oracular. You remember the word oracle? An oracle is a way in which the word of the Supreme is communicated. So there's been a command. And that the thing about oracular is that it may be very difficult to understand, or it may be expressed in a way that seems very mysterious. But that matter has received that oracular command, and it's going to carry it out minutely, perfectly, without changing it in any way. Subha, would you read?
If thou must indeed deliver man and earth, on the spiritual height look down on life, discover the truth of God and man and world, then do thy task and knowing and seeing all. Ascend, O soul, into thy timeless self. Choose destiny, curve and stamp thy will on time.
Yes. So he says, if you insist, if you must liberate human beings, the human race and the earth, you will have to go right up to the highest level of the spirit and look at the earth from there. Look down at the life on earth from there. And you must become fully aware of the truth of God and man and world. And depending on what you have discovered there, then do thy work, your task, in full awareness, knowing and seeing all. So in order to do that, he says, rise up, O soul, into thy timeless self, your transcendent being, beyond time and space. Only there you can make this choice. From that highest self, knowing and seeing all, you can choose how destiny will go, what curve it will follow. You can choose, you can stamp your will on time, and time will have to follow that curve that you have decided. Last time he told her that you have the power to do this, no? But you can't do it here. You have to go beyond in order to do it. Bhavana.
He ended, and upon the falling sound, a power went forth that shook the founded spheres and loosed the stakes that hold the tents of form.
So, when he stops speaking, as his voice fades away, there's a great power that comes, something like an earthquake, and shakes all these spheres of existence, of mind and life and matter, all the different realms of the universe. And he says it's like when somebody removes the stakes that are holding up a tent. You will have certain poles that hold up a tent, and they are kept in position by ropes. And if somebody goes around and pulls out the pegs that are holding the ropes tight, then the tent will just collapse. So it's like that, as if all forms just disintegrate. Chanda. Absolved.
The visions great and the folds of thought that from her sense like disappearing scenes in the stupendous theatre of space. The heaven worlds vanished in spiritual light.
Yes. So absolved here means something a bit like dissolved. Freed from this grip of vision, they just disappear. And they disappear out of the folds of thought. There's nothing to hold them in place anymore. And they are carried away from Savitri's senses, her sense of vision and feeling and hearing. As if they are in a theatre. It's in the stupendous theatre of space. Somebody is removing all the scenery. Sometimes the scenery just gets rolled away and everything is left bare. There's nothing in the theatre on the stage to be seen. It's like that. So all those heaven worlds that she'd been seeing before, these layered heaven worlds, they all just vanished, and there's only a vast emptiness of spiritual light. Janaka.
A movement was abroad, a cry, a word, beginningless in its vast discovery, momentless in its unthinkable lethargy. Quiet in calm season, she heard the eternal breath, rhythm itself abroad
Unutterably. Unutterably.
In spaceless orbits and on timeless roads.
Yes. So in that spaceless spiritual light, there's a movement. There's even a sound, a cry, some kind of a word. And this word seems to have no beginning. It's moving, discovering in that vastness. And it comes back again. It comes back, it returns. But in a way that seems to be separate from time, momentless. That return is somehow unthinkable, ungraspable by thought. But Savitri hears something. She hears the eternal thought. It's as if it is being uttered, sung by seas, oceans, calm oceans. It's being expressed by the sound of these calm oceans with a rhythm, like the rhythm of waves on an ocean. And that sound is spreading out wider and wider in a way that is impossible to express, unutterably. We can't put it into words. It is ineffable. But there is a rhythm, there's a vibration which expresses itself as if in orbits. The planets orbit around the sun, even the comets orbit around the sun. An orbit is a kind of rhythmic movement, a path of return. that those roads of the orbits seem, although there's a movement, there seems to be no time by which they can be measured. So this state she's in, it is a dynamic state, but it's completely ungraspable by the mind or the senses. Come now.
In the end, in every world, she lives fulfilled, an energy of the true infinity. In a measureless reality, she was the rapture and the being unfold, a lilt and
Myriad.
motion magnitude, a virgin unity, a luminous spark, housing a multitude to luminous embers, housing to marry all in God's immense light, bearing the eternity of every spirit, bearing the burden of universal love, a wonderful mother of unnumbered souls.
Yes. So she, Savitri, finds herself alive, living, fulfilled, feeling completely fulfilled in a world that is ineffable, indescribable. And she experiences herself as an energy of the triune infinite. Triune, it means three in one. So we can say that the infinite existence is triune in different ways. It is three in one in its pure existence, consciousness force, and bliss. It's a kind of trinity, of threeness. But it's also triune in its state of being transcendent and universal and individual at the same time. One and many and a multitude of potentialities all at the same time. She feels that she's an energy of that threefold infinite. And she's living in a reality, it's so real, Aurobindo gives it a capital R, but it's measureless. It has no measurable dimensions. She feels that she herself is a rapture, a state of intense delight. And she's a being, she's an existence, even an individualized existence. And she's a force, a power.
This is also triune?
Yes, this is one of the trinities, no? And she's a linked and myriad motioned plenitude, a great fullness, which is connected but is full, containing a myriad movements. Myriad is so many that it can't possibly be counted. No? So the state of plenitude is one thing, and then the state of unity, of oneness, a virgin, absolutely pure and inviolable oneness. And at the same time, a two-ness, part of two, a luminous spouse. A spouse is one partner in a union of two. No? Aurobindo spoke about the two in one. And in all these different states, she's carrying within her, or she's expressing an embrace, a multitudinous embrace, not just embracing her spouse, but embracing all existence, all beings. Her embrace is meant to bring together all, to marry all in God's immense delight. At the same time, she's bearing, she's carrying, supporting the eternity of every spirit. She's bearing the burden of universal love. We were reading about this perhaps yesterday in the Life Divine. The Gnostic being feels united in delight and love with all beings. No? She feels herself as a wonderful mother of unnumbered souls. So many souls can't be counted. So this is Savitri's self-experience in this new state, in this new realm. Joanne. Yes.
I have a question about sentence 880, bearing the eternity of every spirit. The word bearing, for me, is associated with a little bit of suffering or...
You have to have strength to bear things, no? But here it might mean more containing, carrying within it the way that you carry a basket or something, bearing. But in the next line, it's very clear, this meaning that it requires also great strength and endurance to bear the burden of universal love.
It's clear. For me, it's clear that it's different.
Yes, I think there are two different meanings to the same word. Yes. That's what's so subtle about it. Yes, Joel.
All things she knew, all things imagined or willed. Her ear was open to ideal sound, shaped the convention, bound no more her sight. 1,000 doors of oneness was her heart.
Yes. So he told her, you must go up there where you can know everything. So now she knows all things, not only all things that have some distinct existence, but even all things that are only imagined or wished for, willed. And her sense of hearing has opened up to be able to hear ideal sound on the ideal level where things are first imagined and willed and conceived. And her power of vision, her sight, is no longer restricted by shape, by form. Here, Aurobindo says that shape is a convention, in the sense that it's something that we are all agreed on. We can say this is a cylinder, and this is flat, and this is square, or this is flower-shaped. Something about our consciousness makes us agree that certain things have fixed forms. But there's a realm in which the forms are not fixed like that. They're much more free to be expressive. So her sight is no longer limited to these fixed shapes, her sense of perception. And her heart has become like 1,000 doors of oneness connecting her. It surely doesn't mean just 1,000. It means a large number. Leila.
A crypt and sanctuary of brooding light appeared, the last recess of things beyond. Then, in its rounds, the enormous fiat paused. Silence gave back to the unknowable all it had given. Still was there listening thought.
Just read the next line.
The form of things had ceased within the soul.
Yes. So to her sight and to her heart, something appears. She perceives something, a crypt and sanctuary of brooding light. A crypt is a mysterious, sacred place. Usually it's in the foundation of a sacred building. And this meaning crypt, it implies that there's something mysterious and difficult to understand about it. This is a crypt which is also a sanctuary. It's a very, very safe place. It's a place where you can take refuge and be safe. And this crypt, this sanctuary, is formed only of light. And this light is brooding. So by now we must all know what brooding means. Right? It's as if it's going to give birth to something. Something can emerge from this light, something wonderful, unexpected, new.
These crypts are only in churches or in temples and other places? Churches, definitely.
I don't know. I think if you have an underground sacred space, I think the temple in Delphi had such a space. It's particularly associated not just with ordinary churches, but with cathedrals, with very often in the crypt, or the crypt is built on the relics which make that particular place sacred. So that crypt and sanctuary, he says, is the last recess of things beyond. Things beyond everything else, and this is even beyond, a recess is beyond the main space. No? It's out of, there's a big hall, there may be a secret space off at one end or at one side. So this, what she's seeing now, this crypt and sanctuary of brooding light, it's the last recess, the last mysterious, unreachable space of things beyond. And then the enormous fiat, that word, which was abroad, that movement, a cry, a word, which was moving in these orbits, these roads, it pauses, it stops. Everything becomes silent. And in that sense, silence, it's as if everything that has been created by that word, whatever has been manifest, gets surrendered back to the unknowable, into that state where it can't be understood or grasped.
So unknowable given to silence, and silence is given back to the unknowable.
But the unknowable has produced this fiat, this word, but now that the word has ceased, there's silence. And in that silence, everything that was manifested by that fiat, that word that says, let it be, that command, everything gets absorbed back, given back into the state of unknowableness. So Savitri herself becomes completely silent. Still was her listening thought. She's still in a state of awareness, of consciousness, listening, waiting, but in a very quiet, unmoving way, still, unmoving. And the form of things had ceased within her soul. There's no sense of a world, a manifested existence. And in the next line it says that even that Godhead, that individual form of the divine, had become invisible. So we will stop there today. Next time we'll read what happens in that state, in that space. We are reaching the very climax of the poem now, from this top of page 696 to page 702. This is the high point of the poem. Yes?
I want to tell you something. This morning I listened Mother in 1955, and Mother said knowledge coming when you are identified in the silence. It touched me and feeling.
Yes.
So that we have
When you're identified with the silence, that's when knowledge comes, true knowledge.
These only are the mediating links. Not theirs is the originating sight, nor the fulfilling act or last support that bears perpetually the cosmic pile. Two are the powers that hold the ends of time. Spirit foresees, matter unfolds its thought. The dumb executor of God's decrees, omitting no iota and no dot, agent unquestioning, inconscient, stark, evolving inevitably a charged content, intention of his force in time and space, in animate beings and inanimate things. Immutably it fulfills its ordered task. It cancels not a tittle of things done. Unswerving from the oracular command, it alters not the steps of the unseen. If thou must indeed deliver man and earth, on the spiritual heights look down on life, discover the truth of God and man and world, then do thy task, knowing and seeing all. Ascend, O soul, into thy timeless self. Choose destiny's curve and stamp thy will on time. He ended, and upon the falling sound a power went forth that shook the founded spheres and loosed the stakes that hold the tents of form. Absolved from vision's grip and the folds of thought, wrapped from her sense like disappearing scenes in the stupendous theatre of space, the heaven worlds vanished in spiritual light. A movement was abroad, a cry, a word, beginningless in its vast discovery, momentless in its unthinkable return. Quiet in calm seas, she heard the eternal thought, rhythming itself abroad unutterably in spaceless orbits and on timeless roads. In an ineffable world she lived fulfilled. An energy of the triune infinite, in a measureless reality she dwelt, a rapture and a being and a force, a linked and myriad motioned plenitude, a virgin unity, a luminous spouse, housing a multitudinous embrace, to marry all in God's immense delight, bearing the eternity of every spirit, bearing the burden of universal love, a wonderful mother of unnumbered souls. All things she knew, all things imagined or willed. Her ear was opened to ideal sound. Shape the convention bound no more her sight. 1,000 doors of oneness was her heart. A crypt and sanctuary of brooding light appeared, the last recess of things beyond. Then in its rounds the enormous fiat paused. Silence gave back to the unknowable all it had given. Still was her listening thought. The form of things had ceased within her soul. Invisible that perfect Godhead now.